Story 1. Back in the fall of 2018, I was driving down Route 539 through the Pine Barrens in southern New Jersey, headed to a buddy's cabin for a weekend hunt. If you've ever been on those back roads at night, you know it's eerie, miles of scrub pine, fog creeping in from the bogs, and the constant buzz of crickets making the silence feel heavier. My truck was loaded with rifles, ammo, and beer, enough to get me and Matt through the cold. I was alone, looking forward to a break from work and time with my pregnant wife, Mary, waiting at home. Around mile marker 42 I saw him. A guy standing on the shoulder, thumb out, dressed in a sharp black suit and tie, holding a slim leather briefcase. He looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not the middle of nowhere. No backpack, no sign, just him looking out of place. I'm a big guy, ex-Marine, so I figured I could handle myself. I pulled over. Need a lift? Gas ain't cheap. He nodded, polite, with a faint accent, maybe East Coast, maybe foreign. Pulled out his wallet, handed me 2 crisp 20s. Will this do? I took the money, unlocked the door, and he slid in, briefcase on his lap. The cab smelled like grease and gun oil, but he didn't seem to mind. Just stared ahead, blue eyes catching the glow of the dashboard. We talked a bit. I told him about the hunt, deer overpopulation in Jersey, how they cause wrecks or starve out here. He nodded, interested. Culling the herd. Necessary work. He asked about my rifle, a Remington 700, and knew enough to keep up, which was odd for a guy in a suit. Then he said, "Your wife must be okay with you heading out like this." I glanced at my wedding ring. Yeah, Mary's great. 5 months pregnant with our first. He smiled thin. That's something to protect. Family's everything. His fingers tapped the briefcase and the radio started crackling, static cutting through the country station. We passed through Chatsworth, with its boarded-up diners and rusted silos looming in the fog. Felt like something was watching from the trees, probably just deer, but it got under my skin. He messed with the radio dial, but it stayed fuzzy. Then he asked about Matt. Old friend, right? From your wife's side. I'd only mentioned Matt in passing, but he was right. We'd met through Mary at our wedding. It felt off, like he was fishing for something. Finance guy myself, he said. Predicting outcomes, you know? He clicked open his briefcase and my heart skipped. My hunting knife was in the glove box, but I didn't reach for it. He pulled out a single sheet of paper, glanced at it, then tucked it away. Silence took over, just the hum of tires on asphalt. Then he said, calm as anything, "Don't go hunting this weekend. Go home. Your wife needs you. Watch your friends closely, some aren't what they seem." I gripped the wheel. What's that supposed to mean? His eyes met mine, steady. Jealousy's a poison. People close to you can turn. He didn't elaborate. I dropped him off at a diner off Route 72, neon sign flickering, truckers inside sipping coffee. He grabbed his case, tipped an imaginary hat. Thanks for the ride. Be careful. He walked into the fog and was gone. I didn't go to the cabin. His words stuck with me, too weird to shake. I texted Matt, said I was sick, and turned around. He called me nonstop, pissed, almost desperate for me to show up. I ignored him. A month later, I woke up to scratching at our door at 3 a.m. Flipped the porch light. Matt was there, crouched with a lockpick set, eyes wild. I called the cops. Turns out he'd been obsessed with Mary since college, drowning in debt, and saw me as the problem. We pressed charges, moved away. Our daughter was born healthy, a blessing. But the night we brought her home, I found something on the porch. A small keychain, the kind you'd clip to a briefcase, lying in the dirt. I swear it wasn't there before. I've driven Route 539 since looking for that guy. Nothing. But sometimes, in the fog, I feel like someone's watching. Maybe it's just guilt for not seeing Matt's betrayal sooner. Maybe it's something else. Either way, I don't pick up hitchhikers anymore. Story 2. My girlfriend, who I'll call Emily, not her real name, and I had only been dating for 2 months when we decided to take a 1,000-mile road trip across the country. It was her idea, a way to spend time together since our busy work schedules kept us apart most days. I thought it sounded romantic, like a test to see if we were really meant to be. The first 100 miles were perfect. We held hands, sang along to the radio, and laughed when she caught me belting out every word to an old pop song. But then we saw him and everything changed. We were on a lonely stretch of I-80 in Nebraska when we spotted a man standing by the freeway ramp, thumb out, trying to hitch a ride. He was middle-aged, wearing a wrinkled suit that looked out of place in the dusty heat. His face was drawn, eyes sunken, like he hadn't slept in days. Emily squeezed my hand. "Let's give him a ride," she said. "He looks like he needs help." I shook my head. "We don't know him. He could be dangerous." I'd heard too many stories about hitchhikers robbing people or worse. Besides, he didn't even have a sign saying where he was going, just stood there, waving his thumb like he was desperate. I kept driving and Emily didn't like that one bit. She called me cold-hearted, I called her naive. The argument fizzled out after 10 minutes, but the tension hung in the air. About 50 miles later, we stopped for gas at a rundown station off the highway. As I filled the tank, Emily pointed across the road. "Isn't that him?" she whispered. There he was, the same guy sitting on a curb near the exit ramp. His suit was dirtier now, his hair matted with sweat. He wasn't hitching anymore, just staring at the ground, hands trembling. I don't know how he got there so fast. Maybe someone else picked him up and dropped him off, but it felt wrong. Emily wanted to go check on him, but I refused. "This trip is about us," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let's not get involved." We got back on the road, but the mood was sour. Emily barely spoke, and when she did, it was to criticize my music or how I was driving too fast. I snapped back, accusing her of overreacting. The bickering went on until we saw something that stopped us cold. About 20 miles down the road, there was a figure lying on the shoulder, half hidden in the grass. It was him, or at least it looked like him. His shirt was torn, blood seeping from what looked like a stab wound in his stomach. He wasn't moving. Emily freaked out. "We have to stop," she shouted. I didn't want to, but the guilt was eating at me. What if he'd been hurt because no one helped him? I pulled over and Emily jumped out, kneeling beside him. "He's dead," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "You didn't stop before and now look." She glared at me like I'd caused this. I stood there, numb, while she called 911. The police arrived, asked us a few questions and took our contact info. They said it looked like he'd been attacked, maybe a hit and run or a robbery gone wrong. We didn't mention we'd seen him before. It felt too weird to explain. After the police let us go, we drove in silence. The sun was setting and I suggested stopping at a motel, but Emily just stared out the window, shrugging. I could feel our relationship crumbling and I hated it. This trip was supposed to bring us closer, not tear us apart. By midnight, Emily was asleep in the passenger seat and I kept driving, hoping to make up time. I was exhausted, but I thought if I could get us to our destination, maybe she'd see how hard I was trying. Around 2 a.m., I stopped at another gas station to refuel and grab coffee. Emily woke up, groggy, and said she needed to use the restroom. She grabbed her phone and walked toward the station's convenience store. I waited by the car, checking my phone, but 10 minutes passed and she didn't come back. I went inside to look for her. The clerk said he'd seen a woman matching her description walk out the back door toward the parking lot. I searched everywhere, around the station, the nearby lot, even the road. No sign of her. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Panic set in. I drove up and down the highway for an hour, flashlight in hand, calling her name. Nothing. I thought about the hitchhiker, his desperate face, the blood on his shirt. Had someone attacked him, and now Emily? Or had she left me, fed up with our fight, and hitched a ride with someone else? The thought made my stomach churn. I considered calling the police but hesitated. I'd already been questioned once that day, and now my girlfriend was gone with no explanation. I was scared I'd look like a suspect. I had no choice but to keep driving home. The whole way I kept replaying everything, our arguments, the hitchhiker, Emily's disappearance. I felt guilty for not stopping for the man, for fighting with her, for letting her walk off alone. When I got home, I reported her missing, but the police haven't found any leads. That was a week ago. Yesterday, I was driving to the store when I saw a woman on the side of the road, thumb out, hitching a ride. She looked so much like Emily, same hair, same posture, that my heart stopped. I slowed down, but fear took over. What if it wasn't her? What if it was a trick or my mind playing games? I kept driving, hands shaking on the wheel. I haven't slept since. I don't know what happened to Emily, or if I could have saved that man. All I know is that trip broke something in me and I'll never take that road again. Story 3. I've been a truck driver for over 20 years, hauling cargo across the lonely stretches of I-80 through Nebraska. The endless roads, the hum of the engine, the static of a busted radio. It gets to you. Growing up, my mom drilled it into me, never talk to strangers. But out here, the isolation makes you desperate for company. That's why for years I'd pick up hitchhikers heading my way. Most were just folks down on their luck, grateful for the ride. We'd swap stories, share a laugh, and sometimes even stay in touch. It was a way to break the monotony. That is, until November 2023 when I picked up him. I'll never stop for a hitchhiker again. It was around 2 a.m., and I was driving back to the depot in Lincoln after dropping a load in Cheyenne. The night was cold, the kind of cold that creeps into your bones even with the heater cranked. I was on a desolate stretch of I-80 miles from any town, when my headlights caught a figure by the roadside. He stood motionless, holding a cardboard sign that read Lincoln in shaky black letters. A black duffel bag sat at his feet. I don't know why, but something about him made me slow down. Maybe it was the way he stood, like he was waiting for me. Against my better judgment, I pulled over. I rolled down the passenger window. Headed to Lincoln? I asked, though the sign made it clear. He didn't speak, just pointed at the sign and stared up at me with eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. He was older, maybe late 50s, with a scruffy gray beard and a black overcoat that looked too big for his wiry frame. A silver chain dangled from his coat pocket, glinting faintly. My gut screamed to keep driving, but I'd already stopped. "Hop in," I said, forcing a smile. He climbed into the cab, bringing a chill with him. His hands were pale, almost translucent, and when I shook one, it was like gripping damp ice. Not the cold of winter, but something sickly, unnatural. I introduced myself, trying to keep things friendly. "Name's Tom," I said. He mumbled something low and guttural, not a name, just a sound. I nodded, said, "Good to meet you," and pulled back onto the highway. The silence was heavy. Most hitchhikers talk, even if it's just small talk, but this guy? Nothing. He just sat there, clutching his bag, staring straight ahead. Then I heard it, a faint clink from the bag like metal on metal. He was rummaging inside, his hands moving slowly, deliberately. The sound grew louder, more erratic as the miles dragged on. I tried to focus on the road, but I could feel his eyes on me, boring into the side of my head. A quick glance confirmed it. He was staring, unblinking, his face expressionless. After an hour, the clinking hadn't stopped, and his stare was unbearable. My skin crawled like I was being watched by something wrong. My radio had been busted for weeks, so I couldn't drown out the noise or the tension. Desperate to break the silence, I blurted, "What's in the bag?" His head snapped toward me, and in a raspy voice that sounded like it came from somewhere deep and hollow, he growled, "Mind your own business." I forced a laugh, trying to play it off, but my heart was pounding. The clinking got louder, more aggressive, and then I heard a new sound, scrape, 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 like a blade being sharpened. My palms were sweating on the wheel. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get him out. I spotted a rest stop near Sydney and pulled over, my mind racing for an excuse. "Got a flat tire," I lied, keeping my voice steady. "Mind checking the back left wheel? I'll grab the repair kit." He stared at me, his eyes narrowing with a hatred so raw it made my stomach turn. Without a word, he grabbed his bag and stepped out, walking to the rear of the truck. I didn't hesitate. I slammed my foot on the gas and peeled out, tires screeching. In my rearview mirror, I saw him standing in the darkness, staring after me. His hands glistened red in the taillights, and a twisted smile spread across his face. I nearly swerved off the road. I drove straight to the depot, my heart hammering the whole way. When I parked, I realized something. He'd left his bag in the cab. It was sitting on the passenger seat, the zipper half open. I should have left it alone, but curiosity got the better of me. I unzipped it and froze. Inside was a nightmare: blood-crusted knives, rusted shackles, a coil of rope, and metal tools I couldn't even name, all stained dark. At the bottom, I found something worse. A Polaroid of my truck, my license plate clear as day. Another showed me, taken from outside the cab while I was driving. And the last one? It was me holding the bag, dated tonight. My blood ran cold. I hadn't taken that photo. I hadn't even touched the bag until now. I shoved it under the seat and drove home, too shaken to think straight. I told myself I'd turn it over to the police in the morning, but I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his smile, those red hands. At dawn, I grabbed the bag to take it to the station. That's when I saw it. A knife stabbed through the Polaroid of me, pinning it to my front door. A note was scrawled in red ink, "Mind your own business." I burned the bag and its contents in a barrel behind my house. I didn't call the cops. My fingerprints were all over it, and that photo made it look like I was involved in whatever he was doing. I still checked my mirrors on every drive, half expecting to see him standing by the road. Sometimes, late at night, I hear that clink of metal like it's coming from the back of my truck. I've quit picking up hitchhikers for good. If you're out on I-80 and see a man with a sign for Lincoln, keep driving. And whatever you do, don't ask what's in his bag. Story 4. I've been hauling freight across the Midwest for 25 years, mostly on the back roads of Nebraska and Iowa. The solitude gets to you out there, so when I saw a guy thumbing a ride on Route 30 near Columbus, I figured some company wouldn't hurt. He looked familiar, mid-40s, scruffy beard, faded denim jacket, but I couldn't place him. Against my better judgment, I pulled over. He climbed in, smelling faintly of motor oil and rain. "Thanks, man," he said, his voice rough but warm. "Heading toward Millwood?" I nodded, surprised he knew the tiny town I grew up in, population barely 320 years ago. "Used to live there myself," he added, settling into the passenger seat. I raised an eyebrow. "Small world. What's your name?" "Calvin Hayes," he said, locking eyes with me. The name hit like a punch. Calvin was my best friend in high school, the kid who'd sneak us into Old Man Carter's barn to drink cheap beer. But Calvin died in '98, car accident on this very stretch of road. I was supposed to be with him that night, but I bailed last minute, too drunk to drive. Guilt had eaten at me ever since. I stared at him, heart pounding. His face was weathered, but those hazel eyes were the same. You can't be," I stammered. He chuckled, leaning back. "Sure I can. Remember Mrs. Delaney's cat getting stuck in that oak tree? You climbed up and I held the ladder. Or that time we egged Principal Hargrove's house. The details were too precise, stuff only Calvin would know. I asked about his death and he shrugged. You left me that night, Jim. I got a second chance to remind you." The drive turned suffocating. He started naming others: Tommy Reed, who drowned in the creek, Sarah Mills, who overdosed. All dead, all from Millwood. Then he said, "You could have saved me, you know." My hands tightened on the wheel. I dropped him off at a gas station outside town, hands shaking, his words ringing in my ears. Back home, I dug out my old photo albums. Calvin was in every picture: graduation, prom, fishing trips. Yet when I asked my sister about him, she said, "Who? You never mentioned a Calvin." My buddies from back then echoed the same. No one remembered him. Then I found it. A yearbook from '97, Calvin's senior photo scratched out, like someone erased him. But the memories were still there, vivid as ever, gnawing at my guilt. That night, I heard a knock on my door. No one was there, just a Polaroid slipped under the frame, me and Calvin laughing by the barn, dated 1998. The back read, "You can't forget me forever." Tucked inside was a rusted key, cold to the touch, with no label. Now, every time I drive Route 30, I see him in my rear view, thumb out, waiting. Last week, that key fit the lock on my toolbox, a box I swear I never locked. Inside was a blood-stained map marking the crash site from '98, with a note in Calvin's handwriting, "Come find me." I haven't slept since, and last night, I heard his voice whisper from the dark, "You owe me, Jim." My mind races. Did I really leave him to die? Or is this some twisted punishment I can't escape? Every mile feels like he's closing in, and I'm starting to wonder if the next stop will be my last.